from Hollywood and the four corners of the world. You asked for it. Starring Rich Little. Here's the star of You Asked for It, Rich Little.
Thank you, and welcome to the only show on television that goes anywhere in the world just because you asked for it. Tonight, a child goes over Niagara Falls and lives. From Japan, the Michelangelo of candy making, an Oscar-winning cat, and much more. First, the city that sets itself on fire every year. In Spain, the city of Valencia welcomes spring by literally setting the town on fire. Spectacular bonfires called fallas, and they are lit every year on March the 19th. And Valencia explodes into the new season. Here is Jack Smith to tell us the story as sparks fly, because Alice Wynn of Woodside, New York, you asked for it.
These are ninots, giant caricatures sculptured in papier-mâché and cardboard. Tomorrow, they'll be sacrificed in giant bonfires as a symbol of purification. But the artists who made them are proud to contribute their work, for this festival honors Saint Joseph, the patron saint of Valencia. All night long, the celebrants work enthusiastically to set up the fallas in the central plaza and dozens of squares throughout the city. These giant sculptures, some as tall as 40 feet, reflect the folk humor of the people of Valencia. They'll only last a night, but it will be a night to remember. The festival of fun and flames starts with a bang, early in the day, as grenade-like firecrackers are tossed about haphazardly. Hundreds of thousands of tourists crowd into the city to watch the world's greatest pyrotechnic festival. Soon the streets resemble a war zone. Fences and sandbags have been thrown up to protect spectators. During the day, groups of all ages wearing traditional costumes of the region march through the streets. As dusk approaches, the stage is set for Valencia's Night of Fire. It begins with the greatest firework display in Europe. Night turns into day as torches are put to the fallas. The wooden fallas and cardboard ninots burn while explosives and firecrackers continue their fiery chain reactions. The entire city is engulfed in flames. It's a miracle that Valencia is not burned to the ground every year by fire and flames racing through the streets leading to the central plaza. Most people believe that only the courage and skill of the firefighters have saved the city. But there are others who feel that perhaps Saint Joseph is watching over Valencia. Somehow, Valencia has survived another fiery night, and we shared it because you asked for it.
I tell you, when the Spanish say there'll be a hot time in the old town tonight, boy, they really mean it. Next on You Asked For It, Japan's Michelangelo of candy making. We'll return.
And now back to Rich Little.
Thank you, John. You've heard of something that looks good enough to eat? How about candy that looks good enough to put in the art gallery? The Japanese are the world's leading experts of this great art. The candy takes on a special flavor when they add their own unique artistry. Now, to see these artists at work, our Tony Thomas takes us to Tokyo because Rosemary White of St. Louis, Missouri, you asked for it.
Most children love candy and storybook heroes. Japanese kids enjoy both in candy sticks called Kintaro Ame. Featuring the face of Kintaro, a boy whose legendary feats at the side of a samurai warrior rivaled any adventure of Batman and Robin. Kintaro candy is made from water, sugar, and liquid gelatin with added pigmentation. The secret of its success is the ingenious manner in which Kintaro's face is shaped. Brown candy for the eyes and eyelashes, pink and brown for the mouth and nose, a wide brown slab for the hair, and the pixie-like face is complete. The entire concoction, 15.5 inches in diameter, is wrapped in a white candy coating. It will emerge as a stream of candy, only 3/4 of an inch in diameter. This amazing machine twists and pulls the candy into a long, continuous bar. Miraculously, the candy still retains the image of Kintaro. To add to the mystery, the little bars emerge with Kintaro's face intact, regardless of how many times the long bar is chopped. For Japanese adults, candy is an important part of rituals like tea ceremonies and weddings. For such occasions, the candy must be pleasing to the eye and the palate, so it is carefully handcrafted by master confectioners like Koichi Moriyama. He uses only natural ingredients, bean paste, rice, sugar, and flavoring to enhance the taste. The candies can be crafted into forms of cherry blossoms, plums, apricots, or maple leaves. And Koichi works with the same dedication and skill that a sculptor applies to clay. On special occasions, Koichi is commissioned to prepare elegant 3-color confections. He uses wooden molds to shape the finished product and calls upon his 45 years of experience to combine color, taste, and form into a delicious work of art, which looks almost too good to eat. But we've had a taste of it because you asked for it.
This is Jackie Gleason. Listen, Norton, some people are no good at counting calories.
Yeah, I know, Ralph. And they got the figures to prove it there.
Why you shut up with that? Well, now it's time for Jack Smith and one of his classic stories from the past. I understand we're going to see a close-up look at one of the biggest celebrities of the 1950s. Is that right, Jack?
Right, Rich. In 1951, the Patsy Award, which is the animal version of the Academy Award, went to Rhubarb the Cat, star of a very successful movie about a cat who inherits a baseball team. Well, up until 1951, the motion picture business thought that cat stars were out of the question because cats are notoriously independent and very difficult to train. And then along came an ex-rodeo star named Frank Inn and Rhubarb. That's rhubarb, and he's pioneered a new hope for cats in the movies. The folks in Hollywood, from movie extras to studio moguls, were flabbergasted at the difficult tricks that rhubarb could perform. It appeared that here was a miracle cat. Actually, there are 9 rhubarbs, identical in markings, each a specialist with a particular trick all his own. Let's meet them all. There's Pie Plant, Rhubarb Jr., Mrs. Rhubarb, Rhubarb in person, Whitey, Oscar, Longtail, Big Jaws, and Tommy. But still there are more. Behind the original rhubarb and his 8 top assistants are other rhubarbs by the dozens. You might call them the second team. And of course, there are the rhubarbs of the future, still in training. Well, Frank learned early in the game that it's easier to teach lots of cats each one trick than teach one cat lots of tricks. Only Frank can tell them apart, all orange with white markings. Now, this one happens to be rhubarb himself on the double wire. 2 rhubarbs on the wire, each with his own special trick. Now, here's a real study in individual training. Oscar naturally reacts violently to the sight of a dog. This smart little dog's name is Skippy. And now let's see how Big Jaws has been trained to act around dogs. While Oscar spits at Skippy, Big Jaws gets real palsy-walsy. Now time for Rhubarb himself to perform again. He'll climb the pole at Frank's command. This famous cat is really an institution. For example, Minerva, the cat in our Miss Brooks, was portrayed by one of these rhubarbs. And Longtail's been trained for still another trick. First, a rubber band on his foot. He doesn't mind at all. Rhubarb the limping cat. Now, if you think he's unhappy about the whole thing, watch how he follows Frank around. He knows he'll get a handout for a good performance. That's how Frank trains them, with food. Rubber band off the foot, and he still follows his master. Now there's a sight to chill the blood of most cats. And here's where Rhubarb Jr. is put to the supreme test. What a specialty Frank picked out for him. You asked for it.
Jack, I never realized that cats were such hard-working animals. I mean, where do they get their energy?
Well, Rich, they're really well rested. They take lots of cat naps.
Coming up next on You Asked For It, a child goes over Niagara Falls and lives to tell the tale.
And now back to Rich Little.
Good morning, Mr. Phelps. Your mission, should you accept it, is to write to You Asked For It and request the story of your choice. We challenge you to give us a mission impossible. However, if your request is not used on the show, the producers will disavow any chance for prizes. This address will self-destruct in 10 seconds. The address is You Asked For It, P.O. Box 1980, Hollywood, California, 90028.
Niagara Falls, 1.5 million gallons of water dropping 158 feet per second. Now, the force of it can crush a freight train. Yet daredevils and adventurers by the hundreds have taken it on. Many died in the attempt, but one 7-year-old boy, Roger Woodward, went over this deadly precipice and lived. From the Color You Asked For It series of the 1970s is Jack Smith.
Niagara Falls, an example of the breathtaking beauty to be found in nature, and at the same time an awesome display of thunderous natural power, so great that man could never possibly duplicate it. Now, the amount of water pouring over these falls is 1,500,000 gallons every second. Yes, every second, and it carries with it anything that's caught in its murderous current. Now, many times people have purposely defied death by challenging the falls and the horror of the whirlpool and the giant rapids below. Many won the challenge, others did not. The great Blandine. In 1859, Blandine was the first to walk a tightrope across. At midstream, he performed incredible stunts, finally forcing his terrified manager to ride across on his back. 13 Niagara rope walkers in all, and one was a lady, Signorina Maria Spiltarini. Hats were passed around to the watching spectators, and they dropped in a few coins. In 1883, Captain Matthew Webb, the first man to swim the English Channel, dived into the rapids below Niagara Falls. His lifeless body was recovered 7 miles downriver. Carlisle Graham shot the rapids in a huge barrel 5 times. His reward was almost total deafness for the rest of his life. Shooting the rapids was one thing, shooting the high falls was another. A man might make the attempt and live. Strangely enough, it was not a man, but a woman, a school teacher named Anna Taylor, who dared try it first, with little more than an oversized whiskey keg. On October 24th, 1901, she calmly slipped inside, the top was sealed, and the barrel pushed out toward the pounding falls. 3 hours later, they fished the barrel from the rapids and brought her to shore. She'd taken a fearful beating. How she lived, no one will ever know. We're in New York with Roger Woodward, who at the age of 7 defied astronomical odds by being swept over the falls as the result of a boating accident and survived.
We left from the top part of the river where this man lived, and I asked the man if I could drive the boat. So he let me operate his boat, which was it was a small boat with an outboard engine. We got into a little bit of rough water, and some rough waves hit the boat, and then all of a sudden, I remember, I guess it was about the second wave, the boat flipped over. I was scared to death. I didn't know where I was at the time, and I really didn't realize that I was going over the falls, you know. But I do remember a sensation of falling and just floating through the air, I guess you'd call it. And then I remember that things turned dark, and I felt as though I was just scared to death. I began to see light, as though maybe I was under the water and coming up, and as I was getting closer to the top of the water, it became lighter, you know. From the rocks and the rapids itself, I was beaten, you know, fairly bad, bruised, and I couldn't walk for around 2.5 days, and I did have a slight head concussion.
A wonderful young man with an incredible story, and all because you asked for it.
The daredevils of Niagara are now a part of history. They belong to a time when a barrel and a lot of luck and not much common sense brought a fleeting kind of fame. Today, for a very good reason, strict laws prohibit Niagara Falls from being used for stunts of any kind. Doggone it. Anybody want to buy a used barrel?
We'll be right back with more of Rich Little and You Asked For It. And now back to Rich Little.
And the mail keeps coming. Thanks for writing in. We appreciate it. Here's a letter. Dear Rich Little, I enjoy your show very much. I also watched when Jack Smith was host. Don't get me wrong. I'm only 30 years old. Thank you, Mrs. Sue Jenkins of Warren, Arkansas. And we wrote back, Dear Mrs. Jenkins, Jack Smith says he's only 30 years old, too. Okay. Oh, here's one. I would like you to prove on You Asked For It that there is intelligent life in outer space. If this is not possible, then how about the United States Congress? Also, I would like to see the dolphins, I like to see dolphins talk and Howard Cosell shut up. That's all the time we have. See you next time on You Asked For It. Good night, everybody.
This is John Harlan speaking. You Asked For It is a Sandy Frank production.